If you're looking for ways to increase your wealth and just live a richer life, one ancient society might just hold the key. No, really, in this video, we're gonna go over the richest man in Babylon. Baby Elon? So the book starts by telling the story of essentially the richest man in Babylon, right? His name is Arcad. And Arcad had two friends who worked extremely hard, except they could barely buy bread or could barely get by and feed their families. So those two childhood friends reached out to Arcad and said, hey man, like how come, your money bag is always full and ours is always empty? So in the next few minutes, I'd like to go over what Arcad answered them, apart from subscribing to this channel, of course. Let's get into it. Takeaway number one is getting your priorities straight. So Arcad talks about you paying yourself first. Before you pay Uncle Sam and before you pay your rent and mortgage and any other obligation, you need to pay yourself. You are essentially the priority, because what we end up doing is we pay all of our bills and then we're essentially left with nothing to save, invest, and build on. But if you pay yourself first and there is a necessity that comes on board and you don't have enough money to cover an obligation, as a human, you're gonna find a way to cover that obligation. And you're either gonna, ask a friend for a short-term loan or something along those lines, but an answer will show up. There's another book I read a while back called Profit First. And in Profit First, the author talks about actually having different accounts for each one of your categories in your personal finance. So for instance, you would have an account where you put all your savings and you make sure you have 6 months saved up. After you have 6 months saved up, then you take that percentage out and you can put it elsewhere. But you would have one account for savings, one account for investing, one account for like taxes, and one account for actual spending. So your spending account, for instance, is where you would put it in your debit card that you use most often. All of the other accounts, you don't even need to have a debit card for, right? Because you want to make it as hard as possible for you not to touch that money. And you would need to transfer money out, which takes, 3 to 5 days. So it eliminates you being able to make impulse purchases. And it also ensures that, like for instance, if you have direct deposit, the money is automatically hitting that account. Takeaway number two is action beats luck. A lot of people will go on and say people like Floyd Mayweather or Lionel Messi or Elvis, John Legend, whoever, they did phenomenally well because they're lucky, or they did extremely well because of their own self-born talent and gifts and abilities, or they met the right person at the right time. And 99% of the time, that's not actually true. It's all a matter of taking the opportunities that life gives you and making the most of them. So he talks about this in the book, where if you have two people and one of them is taking all of the opportunities that are coming his way, and there's another person who is procrastinating and taking all of these opportunities and taking them for granted. Well, in a couple of years, when these two people meet up, who do you think is going to be further along in life? Who's going to have more wealth? Who's going to be richer? Who's going to be better off in life? The guy who took all of his chances, or the guy who left them all, by the wayside and never took any of them? There is a phenomenal book that's an add-on to this. It's called The 10X Rule. It's written by Grant Cardone, and I actually came across the book when I was working for him a couple of years ago. In the 10X Rule book, you're going to see this principle applied phenomenally well. He talks about if you have a goal, so let's assume you're a salesperson and your yearly goal is to do $1 million in gross revenue for your company for that year. Well, if statistically speaking, that's probably gonna take you, 10,000 cold calls before you can generate that much revenue, then the X rule, or the 10X rule, is you need to make 10 times that effort. So if your goal is actually to make 10,000 phone calls, well, 10X it and make 100,000 phone calls. And then you're not only gonna reach your $1 million revenue goal, you're gonna go way beyond that. So takeaway number three is defense wins. And I'm sure you've heard this saying before, especially if you follow the NFL or any American football, is that defense wins games. And there is a lot of wealthy people who make crazy amount of income, except they always find themselves to be broke. Because, well, people tend to up their living expenses when they get a pay raise. So they continue to climb and fight and learn and climb up the ladder to get paid more. And when they do, they think, well, now I'm gonna have a little more wiggle room in my finances. But instead, they move to a bigger house and they buy a better car and they buy better clothes and they need more Louis bags and Gucci bags. And that gap between you having a little bit of flexibility on your income and your expenses never actually gets any wider, because anytime you make more money, you end up spending more. Make more money, spend more, and that cycle repeats. So before we go on to takeaway number 4, I want to give you a chance to win a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon. I am going to be doing a giveaway, as I typically do on these book reviews, and you're gonna have a chance to win. Simply subscribe to our channel, DM me on Instagram and tell me you have subscribed to the channel, and essentially you're gonna be entered. I'm gonna pick a winner before I record my next video. And congratulations to Peter, Sue, and Jimmy for winning the copies of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Those are probably already on the way to you, so congrats. Takeaway number 4 is about picking the right opportunity. You don't always have to invest every dollar at any given second. You need to make sure that the investment that you're making is the right investment for you, or the best investment for you at any given time. So earlier this year, we saw something very similar, right? Where the stock market took a really heavy dip because of the pandemic, and then it recovered almost immediately. And if you were to have bought some of those purchases on the down while it was very low, you would be at an all-time high right now and you would have capitalized. There was a bunch of other opportunities. So if you take, for instance, the stock market back in 2007 through 2009, I want to give you one example. That if you you bought $1,000 of Apple, which at the time happened to be at $3.18. And that's in February 2009. Well, today that same $1,000 would be worth $49,408.74, or a 4,800% return. So if you were holding some cash waiting for the right opportunity, this would have come along and you definitely wouldn't have missed it. Even if you invested in something like the S&P 500 at that time when it was at its low point, you would be doing extremely well today. One of my favorite financial gurus, Charlie Munger, said this: the wise ones bet heavily when the world offers them that opportunity. They bet big when they have the odds, and the rest of the time, they don't. It's just that simple. If you need any help on getting started investing, check out the video I linked above, and it will give you a really good idea on how to get started and make some money investing. Takeaway number 5. After you follow rule number 1 and you have a decent amount of money saved up, what you then need to do is put that money to work. And one of the best ways to do that, not only investing, but building additional income streams, and more specifically, passive income streams. We know that we get tired, our work hours are limited, we get old as well. But if you have money that's generating money, like a stock that's giving you a dividend, or an income stream that is completely aside from your day job, then you have money that's working to create more money. Your money's never gonna get tired. It is never going to want to sleep. It's never gonna wanna stop. It's gonna generate more and more and more money. And the money that it generates is then gonna generate more, and it creates this compounded effect of just wealth generation. And that is the 5th principle that we learned in this book. All right, guys, so that's what RCAT taught his friends. Again, apart from them subscribing to this channel, I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and like this video so that you're notified when I post the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day.